Before we get into today's video, we want to bring you a word from our fantastic sponsor, Family Island. Have you ever dreamt of giving it all up and living on your own tropical island? The good news is, with Family Island, you don't have to do that. In Family Island, you can build your own dream island and live the simple life. Family Island is a casual, easy-to-play game that you'll have no problem getting into. I started playing it about a week ago, and it's a great game to pick up and play anywhere. It's a lot of fun, and there's always something to do in the game. To be honest with you, I wasn't exactly sure I'd like the game, but after a few minutes, I was obsessed. The puzzles may seem easy at first, but the game has a lot of depth. I was enjoying the game so much that I kept playing it, and I actually had to rush to get this video done. And of course, once I'm done working, I'm going back and playing again. You should check out Family Island for yourself. It's free to download. After playing for a few minutes, I think you'll love it too. Family Island is available from the App Store and Google Play. To download the game, just click on the link in the description box below this video. We just want to say a huge thank you to Family Island for sponsoring this video. Check out Family Island today because it's a ton of fun and you'll be supporting Criminally Listed. Number 3. Margie Schweitz. Margie Schweitz was born in March 1947 in the Netherlands. She and her family immigrated to the United States in 1960. They settled in Van Nuys, which is a neighborhood in Los Angeles. Margie graduated from high school in 1964. In 1965, she entered a beauty pageant and she was named Miss San Fernando Valley. After high school, she got a job as a secretary at the American Broadcasting Company. She worked there for a year and then she got a job as an executive secretary at Columbia Studios. In late 1969, she was engaged to be married to a man who lived in the Netherlands. But that winter, she ended the relationship. On the night of December 21st, 1969, 22-year-old Margie Schweitz went to a drugstore called Thrifty's to buy some gift wrapping paper. Shortly after she parked her car, someone noticed her purse lying next to her open car door. But Margie was nowhere to be found. About 3 hours later, a person living next to an alley in Burbank heard a car speed off. They decided to look outside and they saw the dead body of a young woman in the alley, so they called the police. It was the body of 22-year-old Margie Schweitz. The medical examiner determined that she had been raped, beaten, and strangled to death. Unfortunately, the police didn't develop any suspects. It wasn't long before the case went cold. The police think that the case is connected to another murder. Just over a year earlier, in September 1968, 22-year-old Wendy Jo Halson was kidnapped after visiting the same drugstore where Margie was abducted. Wendy was found strangled to death in the trunk of her car. We cover the murder of Wendy Jo Halson in the latest episode of our podcast, Into the Killing. The difference between Wendy's murder and Margie's murder is that Wendy's case was solved. Margie's murder is unsolved, and unfortunately, no physical evidence is left. So there's a good chance it'll probably never be solved definitively. Was Margie murdered by the same man who killed Wendy? You should listen to the episode and decide for yourself. Into the Killing can be found on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. Number 2. Mary Huffman and Dana Mckay. In the fall of 1993, 37-year-old Dana Mckay and his 49-year-old girlfriend, Mary Huffman, were living in a rundown mansion in Las Vegas, Nevada. Mckay was a popular professional Elvis impersonator. He was the first Elvis impersonator to be hired to perform in the Legends and Concert Show on the Vegas Strip. Mary Huffman was a former beauty queen. In 1989, she was named Mrs. Nevada. In the fall of 1993, she owned a clothing store in Las Vegas. Their home was called Mini Graceland, and the couple was fixing it up. Besides being an Elvis impersonator, Mckay was also a landscaper. In the fall of 1993, Mckay was working on a big deal. The city of Las Vegas and Clark County wanted to line the strip with palm trees. Mckay had a source in California where he could purchase palm trees at a discount, and he was trying to get a contract with the city and the county to buy the trees for the strip from him. On October 2nd, 1993, Dana Mckay and Mary Huffman went out for a grocery shopping trip. 2 days later, their neighbor noticed the couple's front door had been open for a few days. She also had not seen the couple in the past couple of days. She made her way into the house and she found their dead bodies. They had been shot at close range, execution style. Mckay had been shot 7 times and Huffman had been shot once in the head. Near their bodies were spoiled steaks that the couple had purchased at the grocery store. The police initially thought that Mckay and Huffman were killed when they surprised a burglar who was robbing their home while they were out grocery shopping. But that theory was later discounted because nothing of value had been stolen. Jewelry and money had been in the house and had been left behind. The only thing that was missing was a manila folder that contained several documents about Mckay's musical career, his landscaping business, along with other personal and professional documents. Mckay often carried the folder with him. One theory regarding the motive behind their murders stems from Mckay's bid to supply palm trees to the city and the county. Mckay did not have the money to finance the upfront costs of the contract, so asked his friend, a former car salesman named Tim Stonestreet, for help. In 1992, together, they incorporated a new business called Paradise Palms Company. But it wasn't long before the two business partners were feuding. 5 months after they started the business, they were in court arguing over who owned the equipment that was purchased during the time that they were in business. Mckay supposedly had some information about Stonestreet that he thought would help him win the court battle. But Mckay never got to present the evidence in court because he and Huffman were murdered. Tim Stonestreet was investigated and he had an airtight alibi for the time of the murders. He was in Aruba. However, some people suspect that the murders may have been a hired hit, but no evidence has ever been found to prove if anyone hired a killer. The police have another possible theory regarding the double homicide. A few months before the double homicide, on July 26, 1993, Kevin Wynn, the 26-year-old daughter of casino mogul Steve Wynn, was kidnapped. Steve ended up paying a ransom of $1,450,000 that night, and Kevin was released unharmed 2 hours after she was kidnapped. 3 men were arrested for the kidnapping shortly afterward. The police suspect that a 4th man was involved in the kidnapping. He may have also been involved in the murders of Mckay and Huffman. However, the police did not explain why they thought the 2 crimes were connected. Mckay's daughter, Misty Vargas, and Mckay's best friend, Danny Coker, of Count's Cars and Pawn Shop fame, are sure they know who killed Mckay and Huffman and why they were killed. Misty Vargas said that she talked to her father before he was killed, and he told her that if he ended up dead, a specific person was responsible. However, neither Vargas nor Coker have revealed who they think killed Mckay and Huffman. At the time of this video, the murders of the Elvis impersonator and the beauty queen are unsolved. After 28 years, the families of Dana Mckay and Mary Huffman are still hopeful that the case will be solved. Number 1. Jolene Weatherwax. Jolene Weatherwax was born in October 1970 in Fenton, Michigan. When Jill was young, she liked singing with her father, James. Her family immediately noticed that she was a talented performer. When Jill was 12, she started modeling and dance school. In her junior year of high school, she started entering beauty pageants. She was incredibly successful and she won many pageants as a teenager. Her most notable title was Miss Great Lakes, which she won at the age of 16. After high school, Jill got her cosmetology degree from a local community college, and then she worked as a hairstylist. But she wanted more out of life. She wanted to enter beauty pageants outside of her home state. She started following this dream in the summer of 1989 when she moved to Chicago, Illinois. In Chicago, she met a man who offered her a round-trip ticket to Los Angeles, California. He told her if she didn't like Hollywood, she could simply fly back. Jill took the man up on his offer. In 1990, she moved to Los Angeles. She signed with a small agency that found her auditions for modeling and acting jobs. However, she only landed one job. It was a bit part in a music video. Jill decided that she was really meant to be a singer. Her agent arranged a meeting with an old friend of his who had been in the music business, Joe DiCarlo. DiCarlo was several decades older than 19-year-old Jill, and he had retired from the music business. Jill ended up moving in with DiCarlo. Within days, their relationship turned romantic. But after a few months, Jill became frustrated that her music career wasn't progressing. In the summer of 1990, Jill and DiCarlo went to a restaurant that was owned by a man named Ciro Orsini. Orsini was in his 50s and he owned restaurants in Europe. He was a wealthy man. DiCarlo asked Orsini if Jill could sing at his restaurant, and Orsini agreed. After that initial performance, she regularly sang at Orsini's restaurant. By the end of 1990, Jill left DiCarlo and started dating Orsini. After they started dating, Orsini resurrected the Miss Hollywood beauty pageant. The pageant had not been held for about a decade. The grand prize was a record deal with Orsini's record label. Perhaps to no one's surprise, Jill won the pageant. In 1991, Orsini ended up closing his restaurant in Hollywood. Jill and Orsini moved to London, England, where he still owned a popular restaurant. Jill performed at Orsini's restaurants throughout Europe. When Jill was 21, she recorded 2 albums. Orsini financed the production of both albums. The albums were bombs, and Jill didn't find any interest from major labels. For much of 1992, Jill partied. She drank and did drugs. Several of her friends thought she was an alcoholic. In late 1992, Jill found out she was pregnant. In January 1993, she had an abortion. After the abortion, her life fell apart even more. She started consuming more drugs and alcohol, and her behavior became more erratic. Orsini became frustrated with her, and he ended the relationship. In August 1996, Jill flew back to Los Angeles. Although they were no longer together, Orsini took care of Jill. He allowed her to live in a condo where his nephew and a few of his friends lived, and he gave her a small allowance. But the money he gave her wasn't enough to feed her addictions to drugs and alcohol. She wanted to make more money, so she asked Orsini's friend, adult film star Ron Jeremy, for help. Jeremy set her up with some modeling jobs for adult magazines. She also started dancing at strip clubs. Orsini and Jill continued to drift apart, and he felt like he could no longer take care of her. Jill ended up moving to Oxnard, California to live with her half-brother. In Oxnard, she danced at a strip club. She continued to drink heavily, and she was usually high. It's also believed that while she was working at the strip club in Oxnard, she started doing sex work. On May 16, 1997, Jill was arrested for possession of a controlled substance. She failed to appear for a court appearance. A few days after she was supposed to appear in court, on December 12th, she was arrested again for possession. She was placed on probation for not showing up for a court appearance. In early 1998, Jill's half-brother asked her to move out. He was dealing with his own drug problem. Jill essentially became a transient, and she crashed wherever she could. Starting in February 1998, Jill had more run-ins with the law. On February 6, she was arrested for public intoxication, and she spent the night in the county jail. After she was released, she became very paranoid. She told several friends that she was convinced that someone was going to kill her. On March 20th, 1998, Jill hitchhiked from Oxnard to Fresno, California. It's not known why she went to Fresno. She did not know anyone there. Hours after arriving in Fresno, she was arrested for public intoxication. She was so wasted that she couldn't identify herself. In Fresno, she started doing sex work and she squatted in abandoned houses. On March 24th, she was spotted at a convenience store in Fresno at 10:30 p.m. A short time later, she called her parents in Fenton, Michigan. She was incoherent and paranoid. At 11 p.m., she met a man who was staying in a motel room. She asked him to act as her pimp, and he agreed. She then went out and propositioned 3 men who came back to the motel room with her. It turned out that the man who was pretending to be the pimp had a girlfriend, and she came to the motel room. She kicked Jill and the 3 men out. Jill got into the car with the 3 men, and they drove off into the night. Their car was described as a 4-door green or gray mid-1980s Ford Tempo. The 3 men were in their mid-20s to mid-30s, and they were possibly Hispanic. The next morning, a young woman's dead body was found in a vacant lot on the outskirts of Fresno. She had been stabbed 29 times in the back and the torso. A week later, she was identified as 27-year-old Jolene Weatherwax. The police conducted a 3-month investigation, but turned up nothing. They thought she might have been killed by the men she got into the car with, or possibly one of them. But the men were never identified. They also thought it was possible that she was killed by someone she encountered after she left the 3 men. After 3 months, the police announced that the case was hopelessly cold. It's been 23 years since the former beauty queen was murdered. If the police have any suspects in the case, they have not named them. At the time of this video, the murder of Jolene Weatherwax is considered cold. Thank you so much for watching today's video. We just want to say a big thank you to Family Island for sponsoring this video. It's a great game and it's free to download. Just click on the link below this video. And now, here's a clip from our video, 3 Violent Poltergeists, from our new channel, Paranormally Listed. That night, Jackie and the kids slept in the living room. Jackie could hear something in the children's room. Then a beach ball flew out of the room as if someone had thrown it. As Jackie was lying on the couch, she felt an unseen force hold her down and try to suffocate her. She was sure she was going to die. But then suddenly, it let her go, and she caught her breath. This was Jackie's breaking point, and she decided to confront whatever was in the attic. It was her first time in the attic. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the grizzled old man appeared in front of her. It startled her so much that she fell through the door of the attic. Luckily, she wasn't too badly injured. She got her and her kids out of the house. Using the cordless phone, she called the paranormal investigators again. They immediately went back to her home. This time, Jeff Wheatcraft and another man went into the attic. Everyone on the main floor heard what sounded like someone snapping their fingers 3 times. Then everyone on the main floor felt an overwhelming amount of anxiety. They told Wheatcraft and the other man to get out of the attic immediately. Wheatcraft and the second man looked down through the trapdoor. Then suddenly Wheatcraft was pulled back by a mysterious force. The other man went looking for him. You can find our new channel at youtube.com/paranormallylisted. We also have a link in the description box. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.